The Death of Dick Long is an A24 film that's directed by Daniel Scheinert. And to be honest, the only Daniel Scheinert film that I've seen before this is Swiss Army Man, which is also an A24 film. And that film absolutely blew me away. It took me a long time to see it, but once I finally got to see it, I really fell in love with it. I thought it was an incredibly original film, and it's thought-provoking, it's absolutely hilarious, it's also heartwarming in a way. And yeah, I really love that film. We're not talking about this film now, we're talking about The Death of Dick Long. But I gotta say, the name of this film alone just really intrigued me on its own. It's one of the most absurdly hilarious film titles I've ever heard. And honestly, it's incredibly fitting for the cringy absurdity that happens and occurs in this film that it's really basing its entire foundation on. And I'm going to come right out of the gate and say this. I really enjoyed this film a lot. And kind of like Swiss Army Man, I haven't really seen much films like this at all. Don't get me wrong, I've seen my fair share of, white people, redneck, trashy stuff going on, with Gummo, Korean's Gummo. But this film definitely took an angle that I could not predict. And just the way that events unfold in this film was also pretty unconventional in my eyes, but I really enjoyed that for the most part. And yeah, like I said, I really enjoyed this film because the first one being, it's really funny. This film is incredibly hilarious, but what I love about it is that it's not funny in the way that, it's not funny in the way that you would see like in sketch comedy. Like, there's no real punchlines in this film. It's just the absurd situations and the way that the characters talk to each other and the situations that they get themselves into. It's just incredibly funny to me. It's really has a lot of dry humor. And again, a lot of why it's funny is just because you have to be able to observe the absurdity of the situations and the absurdity of this, insane hillbilly backwash culture that it is. And I don't know, I really enjoyed my time watching this film. And it's kind of a shame that A24 is kind of just like brushing this under the rug a bit. They're not putting a lot of money into the marketing at all. Only if you really follow films closely, you know that this film exists. But other than that, this film is like fading extremely into obscurity right now because there's no exposure for it at all. They put all their stock into Midsommar, all their stock into The Lighthouse, and probably all their stock into Uncut Gems at the end of the year. So yeah, I mean, I totally get why they're doing it because they only have so much money to really push it. But, to be fair, the Death of Dick Long definitely deserves its fair shake because this was an incredibly original film. It's hilarious. It's also just, I know I've said the word absurd a lot, but it's really the best adjective I can use to describe the content of this film and the way that it goes about conveying things. One other thing that I have to say about this film that I thought was incredibly impressive were the performances. Pretty much every character in this film I absolutely bought. They were incredibly believable in their roles, and they really sold their performances, and I was just really impressed by that because there was really not a moment in this film that I thought somebody was acting. I really was drawn into this world, really believed that these characters were going through whatever they were going through in this film. But beyond that, one other thing about this film that I thought was just really unique was the way that it's structured. I believe I tried to hint at this earlier, but the way that the plot unravels in this film was pretty unconventional, and it's mainly because of the way that it reveals its whole mystery. Because basically this film revolves around a certain crime occurring, and the whole time you're just kind of sitting there wondering what the hell happened. Because as certain things come to light, as new shit comes to light,
new shit has come to light.
Your brain just starts trying to piece together what possibly could have happened because it just seems so batshit insane, and not much of it is making sense. And you're just thinking like, what is this film trying to go for here? And once it's revealed, it's actually not revealed like in the end. It's revealed basically in the middle of the second act, I believe, or maybe near the end of the second act, but it's revealed in the second act. And usually when a film has a mystery in its foundation, that shit is usually not revealed in the second act. Usually they save that shit until the very end of the film. You know, that way it keeps the audience in suspense. But this film decided just to go ahead and reveal it in the second act. And it somehow worked for me. Like, it really does manage, it actually manages itself to be pretty effective. Because even when the entire mystery behind the crime is revealed to you, there's still so much tension and suspense that this film has to offer, because a certain character, or I guess characters, but really just one main character, has to still deal with certain things and has to figure out, like, what he's gonna do. And the way that certain scenes were directed and written, it was incredibly intense. I mean, I'm telling you guys, one thing I haven't touched on yet is that beyond it being hilarious and beyond the acting being great, this is a pretty suspenseful and intense film. Especially like in the second act and the third act, it's almost non-stop tension for me. I mean, there are certain scenes where like I couldn't even look at the screen. I just had to look down because it was just filled with so much cringy tension. And I don't mean cringy in a bad way or anything, but cringy in the sense that, like, you also feel incredibly trapped with this main character. And you have this feeling that you just really want to find a way out, even though, like, the main character isn't exactly a moral person in any kind of way. But the film does a great job at really making you feel every situation that this film is conveying. And there's a scene in the third act that involves cops questioning people. And wow, like, it was just incredibly intense. And even when, like, things start to become even more intense than they already are, the camera decides to do certain things that totally elevate the situation. And that's really, I just love that this film, beyond it having pretty good writing and pretty good direction and great acting, it just also decides to do some pretty intriguing stuff with the camera. And that was really cool. I know I already talked about the actors, but I didn't really say their names, and I feel like I should at least say their names because they all give pretty awesome performances. Michael Abbot Jr. plays the main character in this film, and he was really awesome in his role. Virginia Newcomb plays the wife of the main character, and I gotta say, she was probably the standout performance in this film. When certain things get revealed to her in this film, it's a really difficult task to portray the reaction, because it's just so, the level of absurdity that she has to react to is a really hard job to do. And she was incredibly convincing throughout that entire segment, and, you know, so on and so forth out through the third act until the ending of the film. And she was absolutely great. I really bought her performance, and yeah, I gotta say, she was probably the standout. Andre Highland, he plays the friend of the main character, and he's like, he was fun. I think he was probably the funniest character in this. And I gotta say, as much as I really enjoyed this film, I kind of wish that we got more of him, because it gets to a point where he becomes pretty sidelined and not really important to the film at all. And I don't know, I just wish maybe he was incorporated a bit more, because his character was just really, it was really interesting to watch, because just a really naturally funny character, really dumbass character, but that's kind of why he was so funny. Sarah Baker, she's actually a pretty known, like, comedic actress, and she plays one of the cops. She kind of plays like a new cop in this film. And I loved her in this film as well, because even though she doesn't give this big standout performance, her really, like, low-level calm nature in this film, and her just, like, freshman sense of just being excited to do this job, it was just, again, it was a really interesting character, and this film is filled with really interesting characters. But yeah, guys, I really dug this film a lot. There's really not much about this film that I dislike. Honestly, I don't really dislike anything about this film. There's maybe just a few nitpicks here and there with, like I said, I wish maybe some of the side characters were paid attention to a bit more. But, you know, other than that, I was pretty impressed by this film's structure and the direction and the performances, and even the song choices. It just, again, it really enhanced this kind of redneck atmosphere. And it was kind of, like, nostalgic for me a bit too, because there's some song choices that kind of brought me back to, like, the early 2000s. And that was kind of cool to hear. So, yeah, I'm gonna give The Death of Dick Long an 8.5 out of 10. We're now everything has changed. Before I did this review, I was gonna give it an 8 out of 10. Like, that was the grade that I was kind of set on. But after talking about it and really not finding much wrong with it and kind of bringing back everything that I saw, I just figured why not? Might as well give it that extra 0.5 because it was just a really cool film to watch. And yeah, I can definitely see myself watching this film a bunch of times because it's a really entertaining film and just with a batshit crazy revelation. One of the most insane revelational moments I've seen in a film. And again, it's also just a pretty original film as well. And obviously, I find that incredibly refreshing, and I love that about it. But yeah, that's all I gotta say about The Death of Dick Long. Stay tuned this month, because in this month of October, which is Halloween month, obviously, I'm gonna try to review at least 2 or 3 horror films that I haven't seen before. Right now, I got Rosemary's Baby on my radar, and I have The Skin I Live In on my radar. I'm also going to try to watch Paul Thomas Anderson's The Master. That has nothing to do with Halloween or October, but that's a film that I've just been really highly meaning to see. So I'm probably going to check those out, and I'm probably going to do a review for those films, so please stay tuned for that. And also, I was thinking of doing a list of my personal favorite top 15 horror films ever made. I figured that would be a fun video to do, and you guys might get a kick out of it, so that's also a possibility. I'm going to do my best to get all those videos out for you this month. And yeah, so if you really enjoyed what I had to say about The Death of Dick Long, please make sure to give this video a thumbs up and share it amongst your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to be updated on more film-related content.